Adam Esquire is still with me in the studio. Before we get the update that the Attorney General gave on this case, what do we know on this particular issue, especially taking into consideration what happened in court today?
So we do know that this actually was supposed to happen last week, Friday, but for reasons of ill health, which the court was duly notified, she was not able to appear before the court. She did so today, and upon pleading not guilty to all the charges leveled against her, she was admitted to bail, 10 million Ghana cedis, 3 sureties, 2 of whom are to be justified with landed property. As we speak, it's unclear whether she's been able to meet all the bail conditions or not. But yes, the court has granted that bail and also put her on the stop list. What it means is that she cannot go out of the country. And of course, that was a prayer made by the prosecution to ensure that she's within the jurisdiction to face the law. And indeed, even her own lawyers had prayed the court to, grant her bail, making reference to the fact that the initial investigation by the NIB, parts of it, the conditions for which she was released on bail, had to do with her surrendering her passport. So it was not even possible for her to leave the jurisdiction. So in essence, she's on bail, and the next agenda to be, the expectation is that prosecution will file their disclosures, and then the case will progress from there.
But it's unclear whether or not she's been able to meet the bail conditions.
That is so.
As we speak.
That is so.
That we're not aware of.
We're not aware of that as yet.
As yet.
Yeah.
So it's one that we're keeping an eye on and to see how things play out. But this was also a subject for the Attorney General's press conference earlier today. He gave an update on further investigations into this national service scandal. And this is what he said. Take a look.
In the case of the latter, we have filed charges against the former chief executive, executive director, Osea Sibe-Ntwi, and his deputy, Gifty Oware. Charges are being prepared against the rest of the public officers and the so-called marketplace vendors. In all, we intend to file about 10 cases in the NSA scandal and will use some of the public officers and vendors as prosecution witnesses. Now, this is a strategy that is working very well for us, and we intend to continue to use that strategy. In a situation where there is a small criminal among big criminals, and the small criminal knows a lot, it is better as a matter of prosecutorial strategy to use a small criminal to get the information in order to be able to succeed, and that is what I'm doing. Also, I wish to announce that the Auditor General has conducted a forensic audit into the NSA, the National Service Scandal, and the total amount of money stolen or illegally spent now stands at 2.2 billion, and not the 548 million that was uncovered by my investigators as at June 2025. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I have here a copy of the Auditor General's report. Again, painstaking investigation is very important in criminal matters. And so, based upon what the Auditor General has done, and this is a forensic audit, okay? Forensic audit means that they've gone beyond what ordinary, auditing would have done. And so, we are going to, based upon this, in some cases, change the charge, amend our charge sheets in order to bring fresh charges.
Well, so that's the latest on this national service scandal. Dr. Dominic Ayeni, the Attorney General, gave in there. Dennis, so now the figure has gone up.
Yes.
From a little over
548 million. Now we are looking at 2.2 billion. And he says that their initial investigation indicated that 548 million. However, when the Auditor General did a forensic audit, it brought up the figure to 2.2 billion Ghana cedis. He also mentioned that they intend to file 10 cases. So what we know already is that 1 case has been filed, and that's in respect of Gifty Oware, Mensa. We're also expecting that in the coming days, that of the executive director, the former executive director himself, Osea Sibe, will also be before the court. That will be 2. But for the others, we are still not sure exactly when those matters will come up. But he did indicate that the other officials of the National Service Authority are those who are going to be prosecuted. But he also mentioned that some of them, instead of prosecuting them, he will use them as prosecution witnesses. So the vendors on the marketplace, they are also persons of interest for him. They may also be prosecuted in the coming days. In all, he's looking at prosecuting 10, not 10 people, but he says 10 cases. As to whether each case will be for a person or a case can have more than 1 person, the coming days will disclose all of those information to us.
Very important in there. And that's one as well that we're going to keep an eye on. And then you should recall that prior to this, to today, there were calls about oral cases and what is happening, because all of this one wasn't captured, right, with the list of the oral cases that we do know. But then the Attorney General explains why there's a seeming slow pace in the prosecution of the oral cases. And he says, well, the oral reports didn't do much in terms of evidence. Let's hear from him.
Ladies and gentlemen, as far as the oral investigations are concerned, the status report is as follows. Out of the report of the oral committee submitted to my office, we instructed the National Intelligence Bureau in March 2025 to conduct investigations into cases of suspected acts of theft and graft by public officials and their allies in the private sector. The investigations were necessary because the oral committee reports did not contain the evidence required to prove the guilt of the suspects in court beyond reasonable doubt. It is always important to remember that the oral committee was tasked by His Excellency the President to receive complaints of looting of state resources.
Well, so that's the Attorney General there, and Martin Pebo is still with me. He is a member of this oral preparatory team. Counsel, you hear the Attorney General there. He says that the report you gave or you submitted did not contain enough evidence, and so those have to still go through the process of investigating some of the report details that you submitted, and that also has contributed to the seeming delay that people are seeing and complaining about in this oral cases prosecution. Is it a justifiable one, a verdict on your work?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. The oral committee, oral is in stages or phases. Our mandate was basically to collect complaints and then gather these, in a readable, intelligible manner for the Attorney General, who would then look at the cases and then distribute those that will stay with him, those that will go to OSP, then those that will go to Yoko, etc., where proper investigations would then be done. So it wasn't our mandate to investigate. No, but let's say this, when you say investigations, that's even gathering the information around could be commencement of investigation. But what I'm saying is that the investigation as investigation, the one we take to court, that wasn't our mandate. So let's say if somebody brought a case concerning, let's use the current NSA. You see, NSA, we received Suleimana Brahma and his team. Then they gave us dossiers. So we took those and synthesized them, put together what we could, and then the documents they brought, and then we handed over. But there were some that you wouldn't find. So let's take National Cathedral. Yes, there were complaints about National Cathedral, but I know also that there were a lot of materials, let me call them data, on National Cathedral, the various interviews, the appearance in Parliament, Ofuriatta going to Parliament and justifying those things. Those ones were able to gather and tell a story in a manner that was intelligible and to give the actual investigators the proper leads. So it's okay. The Attorney General was just reminding us that oral stage 1, the 5-member committee did not actually do investigations. The things we did were to take complaints and then the publicly available information and data we put together and then submitted. So it's fine. Yes, and it's okay. It's normal. That's accountability. And you see, the Attorney General himself said that citizens were expectant. So he understands their call for accountability. And so the way they want everything to go at a breakneck speed or at the speed of light. But we also know that there's due process. I like this famous example so that we see. Remember Party, the Black Star player, you know that his case was investigation started some years ago. To this year, it was made public, and the trial will commence when next year. So look at Party, the Black Star player. So you see, even in the UK, they have a backlog. I'm not justifying. What I'm doing is to put it in context that there are there's a queue everywhere you go. There's a queue. It's not as if every country has just one case. So the moment you take it there, in 2 months it's done. No. So, but let's have faith. That's the thing. You see how painstaking investigations can pay off. You see today, the Attorney General mentioned that the National Service case has now ballooned from about 600 million to what? 2.2 billion. You see, and so you see now,
but Counsel, here's where the issue is, that this oral promise was an integral part of this administration's promise to the Ghanaian people ahead of election 2024. Prior to the president even being sworn into office, your committee was formed, which you were a member of, to kickstart the process. Prior to the elections, already the persons who were championing this promise of oral, listing a number of cases and estimating how much we can even get from the cases. So that influenced the public expectation as well. You did your work as a preparatory team. You handed it over. It's been almost 8 months, I think, since you handed over your report. Would you align with the public sentiments about the pace of work of the Attorney General being slow? Would you align with that?
Not, so let's do this. A bit of yes, okay? A bit of yes, but largely no. We say a bit of yes because naturally it just tells you that human as we are, if we interrogate the system, we'll find out that we can always do things to improve. So yes, to that extent, the public is right. But largely no, because I've already underscored the point that investigations take time. Let's go back to Party, the Black Star case, the Black Star player, you see it, our former captain. Look at his case, years. FIFA, Sepp Blatter, the football lovers, right? You see Sepp Blatter, it took years for FBI to track him before eventually they got him. We could name 1,000 examples. So general investigations take time. And I made a point earlier that look at the National Service case. You see the case was in court and yet investigations continued. And so from about 600 million, now we're going to what? 2.2 billion Ghana cedis. So that is it. So it's also okay. You know, the good thing about citizens asking for investigations to be speeded or we should speed up investigations that it pushes duty bearers. It causes Attorney General to think. One thing that is clear is that Attorney General needs to recruit more lawyers, right? We also need to pass new laws. The way citizens are complaining, I think the first law we have to pass in this era is the one Domlevo is calling for. That the law will stipulate that when a criminal case starts, we must finish within a certain time frame. Let's say maybe 1 year, 1.5 years, 2 years. But let it be very certain so that every citizen who knows the law will know that this case has started. In 2 years, we must finish. I'm not saying...
and that's the time as well. That's a proposal that, you know, could be considered. And Martin Pebo is privately opportunity. Thank you.